just introduce your names, and I'll hand it over to you guys individually to talk a little bit about yourself. And then we'll get deep into the questions that we have prepared for you guys. And towards the end of it, if the time permits, we'll be taking a few questions from the cohort and from the attendees also. I hope it's clear for you. Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Good, Nishita.
Nishita, you will never get more well-behaved panel of people. Don't worry about it.
I can already get that feel. I don't know, with the first sight in itself.
Are you in Hyderabad?
Yes, I am in Hyderabad.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Nishita. Vandal sir, you're joining from?
I am in Bangalore, Aishma.
Oh, me too, sir.
You're in Bangalore? Oh, let's meet up someday.
Sure.
Nishita, you can keep the sequence as
Yeah.
Indivar sir, then Ayushman sir, and then me. So we'll go seniority wise.
Okay, if you wish so, but there is no seniority once we are outside.
Yeah, we can go cohort wise, like cohort 20, 21, then 22.
Yeah, if that is the case, I think Rohit, you would be the second after Indivar sir. It will be you, and it will be Ayush. I mean, anything is fine from my side.
So should we start? 7 o'clock?
Yes, we'll be starting at 7 o'clock. I think we are right now in a breakout rooms. A very good evening to one and all. Welcome you to the PGB Roundtable series with our very own alums from the armed forces today. Today we have Colonel Ayushman Baba Phadi, who's right now working as a senior program manager from Amazon. He is an alum from ISB who passed out in the year 22. And we also have Rohit Tanwar from the cohort 21, who's working as an associate at McKinsey right now. And we also have Sir Indivarjeet Hundal, who is passed out from the cohort 2020 and currently working as Operations Excellence in Just Pay. And to have a very quick introduction about myself, I'm Nishita. I'm pursuing PGP from ISB of this current cohort 23. And I am from Hyderabad and I've been an engineer. So let's quickly get into the session. I would request Sir Indivarjeet Hundal to give a short introduction about yourself. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nishita. No need of sorry.
Okay, sure.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Indivar Hundal. I was a group captain in the Air Force, so Group Captain Hundal. I was a fighter pilot. I was a test pilot, and that's what I was. Spent 21 years in the Air Force, and after that, I decided that it is time for me to transition to corporate world, and that's when I decided why not do ISP. Took the ISP route, and currently I am nowhere close to flying. I am in a hard tech company. This company is called Just Pay. And if you've ever done a big basket, if you've ever done a Google Pay, if you've ever done an Amazon Pay, if you've done a Make My Trip, if you've done a Swiggy, then when you press the payment button, you see a blue icon, and that's the company I work for. That's about me. There will be question and answers, and we will talk more then and let you know as to whatever your queries are.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Indivar, for that. I would request Rohit to go next to give us short introduction.
Sure, I'll keep it short. Thank you, Nishita. Hello, everyone. My name is Rohit Tanwar, and I'm from the Navy, Indian Navy. In the Navy, I was a helicopter pilot, not a test pilot like Indivar sir. And I left the Navy after 11 years, and I'm a part of class of ISB of Core 21. And after ISB, I'm an associate at McKinsey and Company. I'm happy to take on any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rohit. We're actually glad to have you all here. Let's get to Ayushman. Could you please give your introduction?
Thank you, Nishita. And hello, Endeavor sir and Rohit. I just passed out of ISB in Code 22 as part of Code 22. Before that, I've served in the Army for 21 years. And the uniqueness of this panel is all three are pilots, except that Endeavor sir is a test pilot. So like I was in the Army Aviation and I was also in the artillery. So after that, I was confused between pursuing a career in corporate versus going for CHPL and flying in the civil. So in that midst, I can understand a lot of the people attending this meeting will have similar doubts as I had before joining PGP. We can take them on as it comes. So that has been my journey. Currently, I'm employed with Amazon in the last mile analytics and quality section, where we deal with problems of the delivery personnel with interaction when they're interacting with the customers. So we try to bring out software solutions to solve all those problems. That's about it. Over to Nishita.
Yeah, thank you so much. And once again, thanks a lot, guys, for your time here. Yeah, we have a few questions lined up for all our prospective students for ISB. The questions related to ISB I'll be posting to you. And yeah, so the first question here is, how would an MBA from ISB help in the transition from a different setup to a corporate setup? So I would, like any of you can take it forward.
Yeah, let's do a round robin. We'll keep answering one by one. And
sure.
Of course, we can add to each other's thing
right.
also.
That's absolutely fine.
So for the first question, I would really say that it really depends when do you exit the services. There are actually two brackets when you exit. One is close to 13, 14 years of service, and there is the second one, which is close to 21 years. If you are close to maybe 10 to 15 years, then it's a little simpler for you to transition. And if you're close to 21 years, then I would say there are a few challenges. And that's where a stamp from ISB always helps. So why I say this is because companies are looking for managers and senior managers at the ripe age of 10 to 15 years of experience. And at 21 years, we are a little at the upper age. So where ISB helps is after 21 years, when you're ingrained in the rigmarole of defense services and you are at a fairly senior position, then you come back to ISB, study with the 24, 25 years old, get to know how they work. You study day, night, work with them, understand the new generation. That's one part of it, which is the social adaptability and which is very important for us. And the other thing is there is a whole lot of subjects which are taught at ISB and which really help you get a grasp of what's going on in the CV street. So for me, I took finance and marketing, understood what finance really does is now if you talk about the rates going up, the rates going down, I can speak to you at length about those things. I can tell you what will happen to the property prices. I can tell you what will happen to the gold prices. I wouldn't have been able to do that just after defense services. Similarly, there are things like platform-based economies, how marketing, what is digital marketing, and all these things are something which I was never exposed to while in the defense. So you really get to know all these things. You really get to know the corporate jargon. You understand, and it's not ISB has a cohort. They are senior people. There are people who come after work X of 8 to 11 years. And they're very experienced. You also get to interact with them, learn a lot from them. And of course, you also meet fresh collegiates who form a part of the young students program. So all in all, it's a very nice experience. There are challenges, but with the ISB stamp, I think those challenges become far easier to navigate.
Thank you so much for your answer. Guys, if you have any more points, feel free to add. Otherwise, we can jump into the other questions. Sure. So Rohit, the question is to you. How hard is the curriculum for non-diverse students and how could they cope up with it?
I will not say it's hard. Is it challenging? Yes.
Yeah.
But I think I can at least speak for the three of us because all of us are pilots. So we are one of those Fauji's who are very used to studying even while we were in the defense forces. But having said that, yes, it's a lot of academics. Yes, it's something you would have probably not studied in your life. Yes, it's new. Yes, it's challenging, but it is not insurmountable. It's okay. You have to give it some time compared to someone who has come from who is a CA, or compared to someone who's from an IT, or compared to someone who has done a corporate job. You would have to put in more effort, but it is highly possible. All you have to do is probably start planning in advance. Even before you come to the campus, probably take a few classes. Prep yourself well. You will have to put in a little more effort, but I don't think it's anything extraordinary. I don't think it is something which should be a factor to not take up an MBA. Just a little more hard work and just a little more prep in advance, and I think it's easily scalable.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Right now in our cohort as well, I see a lot of people not from the engineering background or not from the finance background, like totally diverse, coming from medicine background or coming from sports background, are doing exceptionally well in all the courses that we're doing right now. So it's all with the passion that you have towards learning new things is what I believe in as well. Yes, so how hard or easy was it to transition from your previous role to getting back to studying, Ayushman? If you could add a few points on that.
Yeah, Nishita. So building up on what has already been told, like what Rohit brought out, it's like some amount of preparation that will see you through the academics part of it. And more of it's not about learning only, it's about unlearning when we talk about people from the armed forces background, because we have a set pattern of work culture which is totally diverse from what we experience in the corporate. And that's what ISB gives you, a rich cohort with richness of experience which they bring in. They come from a variety of fields. They have worked good about 5 to 7, 8 years in their respective roles. And that interaction which you have in the campus with the cohort, with your study groups, at a 24/7 around the clock interaction, there you learn a lot, and you unlearn quite a bit of work culture which you bring along, which is required to merge into, gel well into the next role which you are going to perform. So I believe that is what one should be mentally prepared before going to ISB. And I feel the ISB experience is a unique experience which will transform the mindset to take on any kind of challenges in the corporate. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. And the next question we have, I think all of you can add points for that, going in the order from Indivar, Rohit, and Ayushman. So what are the various clubs at ISB? And were there any specific clubs for defense personnel, or what was it interesting for you and how those clubs helped you transition?
I will skip the part of the clubs. I forgive me for my memory.
Okay,
but
okay.
let this be taken by Ayushman and Rohit.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so I'll take a shot at it. To answer the second question first, there is no separate club for defense people. I hope I'm right, no, sir. I don't think I should get this wrong.
No, you are right. You are right.
There is no separate club for defense personnel, and it is not that the need has not been felt. It is just that there have not been enough people in each cohort to have a club of its own, and so if after a few years we see enough people in each class at ISB, I'm sure there can be a club, but as of now, it doesn't. Answering the first question, there are clubs. I think ISB will give you everything about everything you would want to know as an MBA student. Any subject you would want to know, there's a club to it, whether it be finance, marketing, operations, anything. If there is any social activity that you want to do, there's a club attached to it, whether it be dance, music, or even stand-up comedy. So there are enough and more number of clubs for you to learn, for you to have fun, and if you want the comprehensive list, I'm sure it's available on the ISB page. And there's also, in fact, the club which I think should interest you is that there's a senior executive members club for those with more than 8 years of service. Sorry, with more than 8 years of corporate experience. So most of the defense people would fall into that club, and that is probably a good place for all people with more background to come together and whatever, learn from each other. So yeah.
Yeah, so like to bring out a few points regarding clubs, like whatever Rohit brought out. Apart from that, I believe club is a place where you get to interact in an informal space with each other and with a diverse set of people which you don't interact generally in your classes or otherwise. So like what I used to do personally was go to clubs which I was not even member of, request the admin to give me a space to attend if there is some interesting discussion which is going on, or some panelist is addressing the club, especially when the placement season comes. There will be a lot of interesting activities being planned by various clubs. So there's a lot to learn in each club and activity. And other than that, social clubs, you should participate maximum as possible in all kind of social activities. There's a photography club and there's a dance club. So where first of all, you release all the pressure of academics and the rigmarole of the course, and other than that you interact with people and see the creative side, and you gel with them and build a long-term friendship and relationship which will carry you forward throughout your life. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for your answer regarding that clubs and how recreational activities can be done at ISB. Probably we're getting into a little more informative questions. So the question that we have here is, what's an expected average salary package after ISB PGB for ex-armed forces personnel? So Indivar, if you could take it.
I wouldn't know the average salary. I don't know. I don't know how much any one of us earns. I think you guys, ISB may have a record, but I have absolutely no idea as to what the armed forces salaries are.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be safe to assume, and I don't speak for anyone, that in case whatever you get plus maybe 5 to 10 lakh would be a safe guesstimate. But I have no idea as to what our armed forces personnel are earning.
Okay, sure. Like if the other two have any insight on it, I think that would be helpful for curious people to know about it.
What I always say is that generally, whatever a veteran would earn in a job outside, with the ISB tag, he would get 5 to 10 lakhs above that. So say if you get 35 outside, now you can get up to 40, 45. But again, let Ayushman and Rohit take this.
Sure.
Yeah, like I would like to have a different perspective on this. It's like not to focus on the CTC or the monetary benefit part of it, but somebody who's coming out of armed forces, there are people who joined a service like which doesn't care about what the pays are. Like when I was in service, I think after 7 years of service, first time I saw my payslip, how much am I getting and where it is going. So before that, for 7 years, I was clueless because I was deployed in such places where there was no access to whatever my pays are. So I think all of us come with that kind of a mindset. So more than that, the focus should be on the role which you want to go into, the industry which appeals to you, which is challenging to you, and the money will flow automatically, because I believe anybody who comes from armed forces will excel in whichever field he or she goes into. So that is more important to get a job satisfaction and self-satisfaction that you are doing whatever you always intended to do. So that will be my take on that.
Okay. Rohit, do you have anything to add on? Or okay, sure. So yeah, we have a question regarding how to identify and narrow down to the niche domain in corporate versus experience in the armed forces. I mean, like, can you kind of relate any of your experience in the armed forces and kind of narrow down the opportunities that you want to get into post MBA? How do you identify those?
If I may take this up, I think the very for me the very reason to come to ISB was to open my options. Right. Normally, a defense services officer would be bucketed into an operational or an administrative kind of a role. So the very reason to come to ISB is to get your options open. I mean, Individual sir joined as in the finance field after ISB, right?
Yeah.
So from a test pilot to a finance field, I've come to consulting. So I mean, first of all, there are all kind of options open. But if you were to narrow it down, I think the first thing to do is that, first of all, there is no nothing which is exactly suited to in the defense to the corporate, right? There is no straight line path that this will exactly lead to this. So what you have to do is you have to pick what you would want to do. Like I chose consulting, and I had an offer from in a sales role from some other company. It is just because I chose to do that. Probably if you get into an operations role, which would be very likely for a defense forces officer, you would want to do that. Yes, certain roles can be a little harder to get into, something like a marketing. But I think if you really want to get into it, there are ways and means to do that too. I think it is more a function of what would you want to do, because you are a fresher, whether it is finance or operations or consulting or marketing, you are a fresher. So what would you want to do, and then channelize your efforts toward that. I think it would more be a function of that.
Okay, yeah. That's a great insight. And I think we have a question very much related to what you just spoke. When you take up jobs in the corporate world, will you be treated as freshers owing to zero corporate experience, or how is it? It is treated as freshers, right?
See, the treatment is as to how you portray yourself. You portray yourself as a fresher, you will be treated as a fresher. If you portray yourself as a senior executive, you will be treated as a senior executive. So, but that said, people do respect your experience in the armed forces. They admire what the armed forces do. While they admire what the armed forces do, corporate world requires a different set of skills. The output in the corporate world is essential, and you need to live up to what the company expects from you. At least because I have jumped into a tech field. I am not an engineer, but I am currently working in a tech company. So I burn midnight oil still, and that's the way things are. So you have to work your way through. If you keep doing your work, you will be respected, and people do respect armed forces.
Yeah, that's insightful. Thank you. So we have a few more questions are specifically related to how the preparation has been to get into specific roles post MBA. So if you could quickly give a few insights of how you prepared to get into finance in the US.
You're talking about the preparation during the course.
Yes, preparation during the course in transition into where you landed right now.
So it's a slightly varied field. I have been in fintechs. Both my companies have been fintechs. The first company I was in was a debt capital market company, which was a hardcore finance role. And I will not say hardcore, but yeah, pretty much related to finance. But currently I am in JustPay. JustPay is a technology fintech company. So I have, in a sense, diversified away from finance. But that is one opportunity which I got because of my network. And because I knew I could, I have a scope there, so I took the finance subjects. Finance, it's not very easy to get into finance after ISB. People do look at experience, but there are programs in which the veterans are accepted nowadays, especially JP Morgan and all these big banks have those programs. But if you want to get into finance, then you have to take finance as a major.
Got it. For the same question, I think, Rohit, could you give us more insights on how your placement prep has been when you were trying for McKinsey, and how could you transition into consulting? And what was your motive or priorities? How had you put your priorities through your time at ISB to get into consulting? And also getting into McKinsey, we being here in the cohort right now, it's a very big thing. Like, you need to have a great GPA to get there as well. So how did you manage that, and how was the experience for you?
Yeah. Webinar chal raha tha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, studies, GPA, yes, it is important. I mean, let no one ever fool you that a good GPA is not necessary to get into a good consulting company. Plus, I believe that you're here for 1 year, paying through your nose. You would rather take in as much as you should, right? So I think studying is very, very important. And again, I'm saying let no one ever fool you that studying is not important. A good GPA is essential. That is one. Number two, so till your resumes, it is only your GPA and your resume, right? Number two, I think resume. Your resume is your life on a piece of paper. So your resume needs months of preparation. Your resume needs a lot of time. So I would suggest 3 months before your resume submission, you get down to preparing your resume, because 2.5 months is the minimum time I would give to a good, well-crafted resume. So I think extremely important. A lot of people sometimes try to undermine the importance of a resume, and I can at least tell you for consulting companies, that is not the case. You might be whatever you might be in your previous life, but if you cannot put it down in the way the other person understands it on a piece of paper, your experience is of no use. So your resume is extremely important. And third, I will say that your case prep. After you get a shortlist, at least a company like McKinsey gives you two months before the interviews. So I think all of you would all know how to do a case prep. So utilizing those 2 months well and with the right people, very important. Do not choose someone because someone has come from a marketing background or a finance background. It does not matter. Choose someone who you know will help you during the case prep. Choose someone who you know will share information and you are comfortable sharing information with. It does not matter. You might be a finance expert in case prep. It does not matter. Nobody is going to ask you equations of finance. Choose people who are good to work with. That should be the only criteria to choose your case prep buddies.
Right.
Those are my 3 bits of consulting.
Right. And a little extension to the question, how has your preparation with respect to the courses been? Like, on what courses have you concentrated more to, transition yourself to be a consultant, or to portray yourself as a right fit to be a consultant?
I think there are no special courses to be a consultant. I mean, but I read a question somewhere which said that which are the courses one should focus on coming from defense forces. I think, especially considering the courses which are in the beginning terms, the one course I would recommend all defense aspirants to prepare before coming to ISB is accounting. I cannot really emphasize it enough how important accounting is. And it is something we have no head or tail clue about when we leave the defense forces. So accounting and a little bit of statistics, I think that's good to get the ball rolling.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rohit. That's pretty helpful, I hope. Coming to you, Ayushman. So from defense background to a program manager at Amazon. So yours has been a transition to a technical role. So how has your journey been? And how was your preparation been to get into a technical role? Did you have any prior technical expertise, or how did you prepare yourself through the time at ISB to get there?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's like I just wanted to bring out a few things regarding change of roles. Like as Rohit brought out and Indivas has brought out, it's like anybody coming from the armed forces, the natural fit for a role in say admin or say operations. But that's in our minds only. And anybody who wants to change roles, and ISB is a great platform which gives you opportunities. Like Rohit has gone to consulting, and in my cohort, there was Lieutenant Juhi from the Navy and Small Leader Subin from the Air Force. They both joined Bains in consulting. So consulting also is an open field, and as Indivas sir has made his foray into finance, that's also a possibility once you are in ISB, because you get exposure to so many other roles and people who you interact with. They give you an insight that it's doable. It's nothing which is great chase you can't do. So coming to my case, again, I was like initially very skeptical about going into too much analytics and technical field, because we are not general engineers. There are a few engineers also in the armed forces. They will have a different perspective on the role, but for somebody who's a non-engineer or non-tech background will obviously be skeptical about going into a tech role. But however, having done that, now being in a technical role, that's why I wanted to go for something which will challenge. Operations would be a natural fit. It's like comes naturally to us. So I wanted to go into a management role as well as a technical role. So that's why I chose program management over the pathways which Amazon offers. And as Indivas had brought out, like Wells Fargo also was big on hiring veterans. This time also they rolled out offers. So both finance, operations, analytics, program management, they're all roles which are doable, very much doable. There's no problem, absolutely. Over to you.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much. That was pretty insightful. As you specifically mentioned about being an operations manager would be very natural and easy transition for people from the defense background. We have a question here from the attendees today. That is, with the ongoing veterans hiring by various firms, including Amazon, would you still suggest going for ISB PGP or directly join as program managers or operations manager? How would the MBA add more value to what you're going to do further?
Yeah, I will just take on that
Yeah.
question. It's very pertinent. You can straight away apply for Amazon jobs out of the defense forces, and many people do so. But what I will my take on this will be, if you want a career out of it, like what ISB gives you is a different perspective altogether. Alum network which you can reach out to within Amazon and all other companies which people go into, that is as strong as the defense network which we can leverage. And other than that, it gives you flexibility to go for roles which are not naturally taken on by hiring managers when somebody comes from the defense forces straight up. So like if somebody applies for a program manager role, hiring manager will be skeptical if it comes directly from the defense forces straight away transitioning into a company. They may offer them operations kind of a role. So if you want to explore other avenues, then definitely ISB is a platform. Otherwise, all the companies, anybody can apply for, veterans hiring programs are there in many multinationals that you can go for.
Got it.
Yeah, I would just throw in another perspective here. So it's the probability. The game is about probabilities. So you can apply directly to any of these companies, but what is the probability that you'll get that job? So maybe 1 out of 100 would get an Amazon coming directly out of defense services. But from ISB, almost everyone will be able to get one of these good companies. So that's the difference which ISB makes. Yes, if you do get a job with Amazon, then you may think of not joining ISB. But will you get the job is the bigger question.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your insight on these questions. Yes, we have a question more on the age factor here. What challenges would one face in their transition from defense to corporate life in their late 30s or 40s? So, Endeavor, sir, if you could take it.
So late 30s and late 40s is very different. Like Rohit is the prime example. So we cannot, after 20, we wouldn't be taken by a consulting company. So they wouldn't even look at our resumes. But when you are in 30s, you are a very strong prospect when it comes to consulting companies. But barring the consulting companies, I think everyone else would look at both the age groups. They would look at defense personnel from 30s as well as 40s. Now it is what your preparation is. And like Rohit said, no amount of preparation is adequate. You have to prepare, you have to prepare, and you have to prepare to go for an interview or to make your resume or for whatever thing you are to deal with.
Got it. Would you add any points here, Rohit?
I mean, I'll speak for consulting if you want.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, age is always a factor. But I don't know, maybe I just got lucky. Honestly, I really don't know why, but like I can't say for McKinsey why did they shortlist me. All I can say is that even for McKinsey, there was something which said that up to 9 years experience, something like that. But take a shot. What's the harm? Take a shot. You get it, great. You don't get it, as Endeavor sir said, you have a whole lot of other opportunities. There's no harm in trying. But yes, beyond a certain age, they will not entertain you. But I think as long as you're within plus minus one standard deviation, you just might make the cut.
Sure. Yes, Ayushman.
Yeah, there is one more point to this. Like consulting, yes, it's a very challenging field, but as the age and the situation in life that we are talking about, generally people who come after 40 and all, they have got growing children who are studying in schools. And as Rohit would agree with me, consulting involves a lot of travel. So like if someone is okay with that, the lifestyle basically, other than that, job is definitely, it's very appealing and challenging and one can take up. So one has to keep the personal aspect also in mind. Yeah, that's all.
Right. So to kind of summarize what you guys said with respect to the age factor and the job avenues available at ISB, there are a number of job opportunities that are here for a few, like consulting and for Gen Man as well, general management as well. There could be some factor of age, but not for every role. So there will be a number of opportunities that we can explore here. Yes, and we have a question here asking regarding being an armed force personnel, what GMAT score should we target for to get into ISB? So yeah, Ayushman, could you take this question?
I would say this is very subjective. It's like anything which is a good GMAT score for a current cohort may not be a good GMAT score, because anybody coming from the armed forces or there are people coming from PSUs, you will be pitched against them. So in that particular category, how others have performed will determine whether your score of 720 is a good score or not. So
Right.
it is very subjective, but I would say anything north of 700 or 720 will be a good score, because that's how the performance is at this age and service bracket. So that's my take on that.
Okay, thank you.
And as we have said, if you're targeting a score, then you should target the topmost score. You want to come to the best institute and you set a target which is below. So you're starting from a wrong benchmark. So you want to come to the best, try to get the best score. If you get the best score, you have a good start, then you will finish the race well. So,
right.
So don't get deceived by you come with a low score and then you start your race from there. The race starts from before GMAT.
Absolutely. And all that preparation that one puts into actually taking the GMAT or GRE would definitely help in catching up with a lot of statistics and mathematical aspects here. Also, the reading comprehensions that people do is pretty much useful for all the case readings that we do here. So yeah, it is very important and very essential to target for a very good score. And we have a few more questions, more interesting questions. So how does being in army and having a disciplined life you've enjoyed in army, how does that help while doing your MBA? So Rohit, if you could take this question.
If you said army, then Ayushman sir should be answering this question.
Right, yeah.
But nonetheless,
army or defense, anything I meant.
Okay, but if I'm sure that was a joke. I think it's always helpful. I mean, I can say for myself, for those 2 months after I got a shortlist, before the placement, irrespective of what happened, I would get up at whatever, say 5 or 6 every day. And before the world would start coming for breakfast, I would have already studied for 2 hours. So I think having a disciplined life is always good, but it by no means goes to say that you wake up in the morning. All I'm trying to say is that ISB is a good time to have fun, but those 2, 3, 4 months, which are super critical, I think that is where all your discipline and all whatever you have learned actually comes to test. Can you stay focused despite the hundreds of thousands of things which are going on in campus?
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, what have you come to ISB for? You have come to get a good education and you have come to get a great job, right?
Right.
So all your discipline, everything what you do, I think helps you stay focused and helps you make a timetable, and more important than anything, helps you stick to the timetable. So those are my 2 cents.
Right. So I would like Ayushman and Endeavor sir also to add a few points on the discipline, because here at ISB, me currently going through the course, I know how important or crucial it is to manage your time. So being disciplined is the most critical thing, is what I've realized after coming here. So how much did it help, like being disciplined or sticking to the timelines or schedules? How much did it help you both?
See, I have a different perspective or a different take on this, a very different take. The most intelligent people, barring Rohit, the most intelligent people may not look to be disciplined, but they are very disciplined when it comes to their studies. So if we think that armed forces is the only place where people are disciplined, then we are absolutely wrong. There are people who are disciplined in all aspects of life. The discipline may be a different type of discipline. They may not get up at 6 o'clock, but then I have seen those people maybe getting up at 10 o'clock, but they work till 4 o'clock at night. So the definition of discipline in the armed forces vis-a-vis civil is quite different. You need to be disciplined to hack the course and do well in the course. And you will be surprised, you will see a lot of different types of disciplines. You will see that the most casual looking person who probably comes in slippers would be very disciplined when it comes to his studies. So discipline is essential to make a mark.
Sure. Over to you, Ayushman.
Yeah, like whatever Endeavor sir and Rohit has brought out. Other than that, my take on this is like everybody has got something to contribute. It may not be classical discipline as we understand it. So like as Endeavors have brought out, like somebody coming from IIT would have a certain discipline of going about his daily routine, about his studies. And similarly, armed forces people bring with them a plethora of other kind of aspects to life, which normally somebody in the civil street will not appreciate. So that's what the cohort learns from each other. And that's why we enrich the cohort by this great diversity which we have in our cohort. So discipline can be learned from each and every member of the cohort, but in a different way. And yes, armed forces people have got a lot to contribute to the cohort as we bring in with us a different perspective to every problem when we approach to that. And similarly, somebody coming from extremely diverse background. I think that's how it is.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Yes, and we have a question which is, after 10 to 15 years of experience in armed forces, should the individual prepare for a campus, for a trademark offline PGP or some online MBA? What is that you would recommend? Indivu sir, if you could take this question, and then we'll go. We'll take perspectives.
Tell me the question again.
Yes. So the question is, after 10 to 15 years of experience in the armed forces, should the individual prepare or decide on doing an offline PGP or an online MBA? What would your recommendation be?
Both are,
and how
both,
each of
both,
it?
Both are not comparable.
Right.
Online course can never be compared to an offline course. If you are at campus, that's where you get the vibes, that's where you learn. Online course, I don't think is that fulfilling. If I was to use that word, it's not that fulfilling. So I would highly recommend against an online course, and I would highly go for a offline course. So in fact, I have a take on the PGP versus the PGP Pro and the PGP Max also.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, you should, if you're coming to the best management institute in the country, then you also want to go to the best course which it offers. So while PGP Pro and PGP Max are very good courses, and I wouldn't dissuade anybody from going to those. But if you want to have an enriching experience, then it is the PGP course. It is working with youngsters, working with, now I'm talking about at the age of 45 years. So I am not really talking about 30, 35 years, because they still have a lot of people of their age. And it is us who have only 2 or 3 people of our age. But it's challenging, but it is very interesting. So you need to have the vibes, you need to be on the campus.
Right. So Rohit, your few cents on this?
I think I would completely and wholeheartedly agree with Endeavor sir. It goes without saying that if you come to ISB, I think PGP, the flagship program, PGP is the program you should come to, especially in context of what you asked, 10 to 15 years of service, right? I think it makes perfect sense. The plethora of people you would get exposed to, the job opportunities which you get during the placement season are probably the best you can, and you would not want to miss out on anything of that. So I wholeheartedly agree with Endeavor sir.
Got it. Over to you, Ayushman.
Yeah, like adding on to whatever has been already said on the topic, is like, again, I would echo what Endeavor sir had to say. It is uncomparable. It is not just to compare, PGP Pro and Max to PGP. It's like, as I brought out earlier, most of the learning happens in the informal discussions which you have with your cohort. The unlearning and the learning part, which goes on a daily basis, that is not simply possible in an online scenario. It will be only classroom teaching which you will be going through. So I believe there's no match. Thank you.
Got it.
It's generally that after 21 years of service, after having done whatever I did in the defense services, I always thought that I have been there, done that. But when you speak to the professors, you get to know the plethora of knowledge they have. You wouldn't get to know it if it is not, and those interactions don't happen in class. Those interactions happen just outside the class, and then you gauge the knowledge which they have. Leave alone the knowledge of the professors. When you interact, majority of the cohort is engineers. I think 60% of the cohort is engineers.
Yeah.
You get to learn so much, and then you get to know that your knowledge level is just a drop in the ocean. So you have to be on the campus.
Right. To sum it up, along with the course content that we learn from the ISB and the curriculum at the PGP here, I think learning from peers has been one of the most important aspects here at the ISB. So an offline MBA would definitely add a lot of value to one's profile and learnings. Yes. And to get into the further questions, could you add any insights on the scholarships available for the armed forces people to do the MBA here? Yeah, the question.
I wasn't given a scholarship because I applied a little late, but I believe there is a scholarship in which you can get up to during around 3 years back, it was up to 5 lakhs, I think. But since I did not get that, I wouldn't know that. So I'll have to skip this question. But there is something which I'm sure which exists.
Sure. Rohit, could you add any pointers here?
I'm sorry, I think I fall in the same bucket as Indivar sir. I did not get one either. So, but I'm sure it's something which exists. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I think it's even I have a little idea on the scholarship aspect. I think there are a few avenues to avail scholarship at ISB as well for the diverse, for people coming from diverse backgrounds. But it keeps changing from year to year. So with the admission process, everyone would get to know how the scholarship has been. When you're filling your application form for the ISB, that's when you can clearly understand how it is.
Yeah, I would just recommend people to check this particular thing while filling the form, because I think somebody told me later, one of my army colleagues told me later, and because I did not fill it while filling the first form, so I missed out on that. I missed out on even being considered for that.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And also something related to the admission process, how to get into ISB. So how would the profile evaluation be carried out in terms of the impact, role, and counterparts? And how do we put across the diverse roles, or how do you put across your application to get into ISB? Rohit, if you could take this question.
First of all, my strong recommendation, do not try to show that you're from a diverse person. The very fact that you're coming from defense forces is fine, right? So do not try to add something just to try to get that diverse thing. It's fine. You're from the defense forces, you're not a typical corporate person. You already fall into that category. That is number one. And number two, I think it is very essential to bring out your story clearly, simply, and in a manner which is understandable to the person your application goes to. In all likely probability, the person reading your application is not going to be a defense forces person. He or she can be of any age, any background, any function, right? So if you start throwing your 4G words in it, whether it, irrespective of which arm or service you come from, you're not going to make sense to that person. So it is very essential that you convert whatever you have done into a language which is easily understandable and simple for anybody to process. I think that is very, very essential. Second, there are, and third, I would say that there are a lot of things which we do in the defense forces which might not seem like a big deal for us because we somehow get used to it on a daily basis. But I have a strong recommendation that you should actually reflect on whatever you have done and write it down before you even start writing your essays. And it's always good to have someone with whom you can do the application process. I had a couple of friends who had done some great B schools around the world, so I ran my applications through them. So have someone to give you that perspective, to pick out what makes sense and what does not make sense. So those are my 3 pointers on this.
Got it. Ayushman, if you have any pointers to add on this?
Yeah, I fully agree with what Rohit has brought out. It's very important to get it reviewed with people who are already working in corporate, or like people like us who have already been through the ISB PGB process, who can vet the application in a neutral manner. And it's very important to be original, to write your own story in your own words. It's like, not, you can discuss with many people, but ultimately it has to be your story being told in your own words, which will appeal the max. It's like, rather than taking ideas from here and there and trying to build something, it doesn't appeal, it doesn't work. So be original. I think that is my point. Thanks.
So
I think
yeah.
all you guys need to understand that the world needs good people. The corporate sector needs good people. If you just need to indicate in your application process that you are a fine fit for the organization, and they'll be more than happy in taking you. Obviously, if you portray a poor picture in any ways, then that's the only face which you have to the corporate world at that juncture, or for ISB as well at that juncture for the admission process. You need to show that you are a good person and you will be adding value to the institute.
Right. If all of you could add a few more pointers with respect to the essay preparation or the interview preparation for the admission process. We could start with any of you.
I didn't do any interview preparation.
May I go first?
Yeah,
Sure,
go ahead,
Ayushman.
Ayushman.
Yes,
Yeah,
Ayushman, you
sorry.
can.
I have one point to this, like mock interviews definitely help. Like most of the time in the armed forces, we're used to taking interviews rather than giving interviews. So it's like for somebody, it may be 10 years last time when he really went for an interview like this. So it's better to go for a mock interview, prepare well, and that will, I think, see them through. There should not be any problem. Over to Indra's.
Yes.
So
I
had not really prepared for an interview, but one thing which I would strongly recommend is what you've put to paper is something which you should have done and which is something which you should have prepared well. So if say in your resume, if you've written a particular point, and if you are not very sure of that point, then it reflects very poorly. So
Right.
whatever you portray on your paper, you should be able to talk about those aspects in your interview.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that. Rohit, if you have any pointers on this, we'd love to know that.
I think just to build up on what I said before, as far as the essays go, I think, and this is especially valid for people with more experience, you've already done 8, 10, 20 years. So to somehow reflect on whatever you have done takes a lot of effort. So before you even start writing down essays, I think I remember I took a couple of weeks to write down whatever I could recollect of whatever 8 to 10 years of my career, and then choose and pick out from that what makes sense to the question that is asked in the essay. So I think that would be a great place to start. Get a clean slate, write down whatever you can think, whatever notable things you can pick, and then pick and choose whatever fits the essay questions.
Got it. Yes, thank you so much for that, Rohit. We also have Harinderjit Singh here with us. Thank you so much for taking out time. Could you, we would love to know a little bit about you for a quick introduction of yourselves.
Right. Hi, good evening, Rohit. Hi, Indivar, how are you? So Rohit and me are batchmates. So that's the first introduction. So being Rohit's batchmate has been, a big achievement for me in life. Hi, good evening, Ayushman as well. So thank you so much. I'm sorry for this, delay, Bangalore traffic. So I take all the blame on myself, and especially when it rains. So my introduction, I'll just put it very simply. I'm a naval veteran. I served for about 24 years in the Navy. I was an operations officer all my life. And then 2018, I just had a kind of an epiphany and I said, I just want to change my entire life and my tack. Joined ISB class of 21. I was at the Mohali campus. I graduated in August last year along with Rohit. And I specialized in marketing and strategy and leadership. And I've joined Amazon as a senior program manager. I'm based out of Bangalore at the Amazon Bangalore site. That's all about me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So today here we've already been following through a few questions, and we would also love to know your perspectives. I'll pose a few questions for you as well.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, we just finished getting a few pointers about how to prepare for the essay and interviews for the admission process. As you also brought up the topic of you and Rohit being a batchmates, there are a few questions on and around how many people from the defense or armed forces background can one expect in a PGP class of 900 people?
I think there's no fixed answer to that question. All right. So class of 21, there was me and Rohit. There were two of us. We were supposed to have Digvijay Soda, but then he decided to, go somewhere else. He went to Canada. The next class had, I think, 6, if I'm not wrong, the one which passed out in May this year. The Ayushman's class, actually. So, and before that, we've had like 3, 4, 2, 1. So I don't think there is a number that ISB puts to it, but I would guess it's all about creating that mix of diversity that ISB looks at, and there is a bar, I would guess, for admissions. And if you meet the bar, you're there. I don't think there is a quota system or a vacancy-based system that they really apply. I don't think it's there.
Yeah. Got it. Thank you. And a question regarding the career opportunities and avenues post ISB. So could you all add a few pointers on the options one can get post ISB as well? So ISB, the degree from ISB is known for giving you a lot of opportunities after getting into your first job as well. A lot of people try to shift their roles in the first 1 year or 2 years. But how is it for a person coming from the armed forces background, rather coming from a technical or finance or backgrounds from these sorts? So how are the opportunities post joining your first job after ISB? Yeah, we can start with Indivar sir for this.
The opportunities have to be created by your own self. You have to network, you have to speak to people, you have to search. Now you're talking about post ISB, post job.
Correct. Yes.
So post ISB, post job, ISB just becomes a filter in which people see that, okay, you've done ISB. But now when you have to change the job, then once again, the entire rigmarole happens. You have to prepare, and thereafter you have to show to the new company as to how you will value add. So, right. But that said, after defense services, you gain a lot of experience. ISB helps you transition from the defense to the corporate world. It prepares you well. Thereafter, once you enter the bandwagon of corporate world, then you get to learn a lot. And it's this learning over the 3 aspects: the defense, the ISP, and your new job, which prepares you.
Got it. So over to you, Rohit or Ayushman, if you have any pointers to add on this, and followed by Harinjit.
You can just call me Harry. It's a shorter name.
Hari, is it? Sure. I think we lost Ayushman here, but we can go ahead if you have pointers on these guys. Any of you. Hari, if you have any points.
I'll go for it.
Yeah.
So actually, when you're looking at, I'm looking at this answer purely from the perspective of an armed forces veteran. Now, what are the kind of veterans who join the Indian School of Business? There are 2 kinds. The likes of Rohit, who are short service commissioned officers who come in. He's not a short service commissioned officer, but I'm equating him there. Who are at about 31 to 35 years of age. And the other ones are those who've done their 20-year tenure, like Indivar or myself, who are at, not the right side of, I would say, just about the right side of 40s. In my case, I was on the wrong side of 40s as well. But the issue here is that the options are different for these 2 categories, because when you have age on your side, you have the opportunity to create, I would say, a career which has more variation in the type of experiences that you can have. But if you're a permanent commission officer, then in that case, you don't have that avenue and you got to play on your strengths. So I would say post ISB, if you're a short service commissioned officer, then in that case, I think the world is your oyster. You don't really need to worry about a specific domain or to think about playing on your strengths. I think you can just treat yourself like any other student at the Indian School of Business and come with an open mind, treat the curriculum as something that will open your avenues for a whole lot of opportunities, and just go for whatever you want. Like Rohit here went for consulting and he cracked it very well. And I know of the last batch, Ayushman's batchmates, there was Juhi, there was Subin, they've all gone into the consulting world, which is a great break for them. And I know of permanent commission officers like Ayushman, myself, and even Indavar's already said, but like I would say, you have to then play on your strengths, because the opportunities you have to make a switch are limited. You will possibly make one switch in your domain and industry when leaving ISB, that is the post ISB world. And after that, it depends upon, like Indivar also said, upon what's the network you build and the opportunities that your job creates for you. Now, if you've gone to a very niche domain, possibly it may not be possible for you to make another switch. But if you've gone to a place where I wouldn't say the world is your oyster, but you're in a much bigger pond, then definitely, and how your company encourages you. There are various companies that encourage either lateral movement within the organization in different verticals, or which encourage you to try out something new within the organization. That's a great place to be in, because then you can find in the first 3-4 years where you really want to make your mark and then go for it. But having said that, I would give a word to the wise, and that is, whilst the Indian School of Business, I think it's about 98% at graduation and 100% within 3 months of graduation is the placement record for the Indian School of Business. A word to the wise is that let's not treat or looking at the PGP program as an opportunity for placement would be a wrong way of looking at the PGP program itself. PGP program, I would say that Indian School of Business is like a temple of learning. You come here and you learn, and then you take what opportunities you get because of, like Indivar mentioned, your hard work, your interaction with the curriculum, with your batchmates, with your professors, with your subjects, and then see. Ayushman's batch there were 6 military officers, and they've all gone into very diverse domains. So I think it's not a question of what can happen, it's a question of what you can make happen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your insights, sir. Rohit, do you have any pointers to add on this?
No, I think Harry sir and Indiva sir have covered almost everything.
Sure. Yeah, we also have a lot of questions on, is operations the only natural transition for defense personnel in the corporate world? So as we already spoke a little bit about operations being a safer or easier space to get into, but could you add a few more pointers onto it, and with respect to the other job avenues that are available as well, like retail or the program manager, the consulting, etc.?
This is an ambiguous question. Natural, yes, it is very natural. But is it the only field? You can see between the cohort, 4 of us, we are in all different fields. So does it open avenues? It certainly does open avenues. Natural, obviously you've been in operations throughout your life, so that's natural. But do you want to stay in your comfort zone, or you want to exit the comfort zone, is a question that you need to answer before you scout for a new job.
Right. So if others have any other pointers onto
I think we should also listen to Ayushman's perspective on this.
We have, sir, actually, hello, sir. Before you were here, so like we discussed over this quite a bit, and as I already brought out, like there was a brought out, it's an open world, and armed forces people, like any other PGP student, is open to take on any challenges. It depends on the individual where he wants to go, where the job satisfaction lies, and where he wants to pursue his career. If somebody is comfortable in operations, then let it be. But if somebody wants to challenge himself, like Indivar has joined finance, it's a totally diverse field for somebody coming from the forces. So definitely that field is open, but no role, I would say, is a no-go for somebody coming from the armed forces.
I would just like to say that at no point of time should we think that this is we are entitled to such a role. I did not get a shortlist from Amazon Pathways. I was the most disappointed because you somehow assume, which I would just like to tell everybody, that nothing is on a platter. You have to work towards it and make it happen. So yes, you are a natural fit for operations, as Indiva sir said, yes. But is it a safe option or is it a given? That's no.
Cool. Yeah,
in my opinion, I think if you're coming to the Indian School of Business, you're coming with the intention of, a growth of your mind as well. And if you're coming with that intention, then I don't think playing on your comfort zone will be a good option for you. I think you need to challenge yourself and say, what does the curriculum have for me? What do the opportunities created by the college, the school, the B school have for me that I can maximize on? Yes, of course, operations is something that is a very safe zone. But operations as we do them in the military, and operations as exist outside the military world are two very different things. I think if you really want to go into operations and you've made up your mind, then you need to talk to people who are in the operations world outside to understand what operations are like. Let me give you an example of just about a fulfillment center, be it any company which is in e-commerce, be it an Amazon or a Flipkart or a Snapdeal or what have you. You've got to be on the fulfillment center for your shift. Your shift will be any time of the day or night. You don't have really a say in that, and you will be on your feet moving around for those 8 to 10 hours, and it doesn't end. You will even work on weekends. You will be on call 24/7 because at your level you will be a fulfillment center in charge. So it's not like it's a 9 to 5 operations job. It is not. The operations outside is very taxing, and it really requires you to have all your faculties going 24/7. Are you willing to do that? That is operations in the corporate world. Just to give you a perspective of an e-commerce company. I can't really talk about any other company, but that's operations for you. I know a little bit of banking operations, and that's also a 24/7, almost a 24/7 on-call job, because banking has a lot of escalations and immediate escalations. So think about it. Have a chat with with people who are there in the operations world. You'll have alumni you can connect with and get a perspective. But look at me. I'm a pure, what you can call an army infantry guy, and I'm working in the AI ML model space. Never thought about it. Never even wondered that I'll one day be in a tech or a semi-tech role. So it just happens. I think some things just happen because ISB gives that confidence that I can crack it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So after coming to ISB as well, it opens up a lot of opportunities, and alums are always available to discuss with them with respect to the right job fit or the right opportunities that you need to pick up from thousands of opportunities that you have in here. So coming to ISB with an open mindset is the most crucial thing, is what we all believe in. Thank you so much for your time here today, guys. We are almost towards the end of our questions, but as Hari, you joined a little bit late. We would, all the attendees would also love to know a little bit of your perspective with respect to how this offline MBA has helped you, and why do you think it's important to do an offline MBA in comparison to the online MBA, and what sort of preparation have you gone through your time at ISB to get to the space where you are right now? So a few pointers on these lines would help us.
Absolutely. First of all, I didn't come to ISB with any preparation. I went with zilch preparation because I thought, first of all, I need to go with an open mind. You can't really go with a template in your mind that this is what I'm going to do. I took a leave for 1 month before I joined ISB, because it's important for you to clear the cobwebs of a military mind before I think you step into the world of education, and it's very fast-paced education. All of us have really put in, I think, 12 to 14 hours. Rohit, being in consulting, must have put in like 20 hours every day while he would have been at ISB. And no jokes, I mean, it's a fact, let's be very frank, at 40 plus, your body, you need to dip into the deepest reserves of energy in your body to make it happen. So no preparations, just came with an open mind. I would thank Mr. Ankur Wariku for the lecture he took for our batch. Rohit and I were both there. And he said a few things. And I think that set the tone for me. He said, you need to decide what is important for you. You need to understand what is non-negotiable for me today, this week, this month, this term. You know? And what is it that I'm going to take away from ISB every day, every week, every month, every term? Which subjects I'm going to maximize on, which I'm going to make sure I really excel at, and which I'm going to pick and choose. And also that be very clear that, you know, there's this word called FOMO. And that's a part of every B school life. You know, around every B school in the world, this problem exists. So you need to be very clear again, how are you going to divide your time? So take your calendar, daily calendar. If you work on Outlook, I was still in the Stone Ages those days. I had a paper and a pencil calendar and I used to write it into that. But I was very clear that I would write, you know, every day what I had to do and then see the blanks available. And it included 6 hours of sleep as well, because, you know, I was very clear that I need a fresh mind. Typically speaking, I read about somewhere that in a B school, you can do one of these, 2 of these 3 things at one time together, either study or socialize or sleep. Okay. And you need to get that balance, because socializing is very important, because that's where a whole amount of gyan comes in. I'm not an engineer, but I'm a science graduate, and I really understand how the world moves between 1, 1.5 and 2. There are integers, there are decimals. And this is again a lot of words coming from Mr. Wariku's lecture. But for an arts graduate, for a commerce graduate, for an economics graduate, their world is a continuum. There is no 1.5. And that's when you interact with them and you get a whole lot of perspectives. And, you know, so you need to just make sure that you grab that opportunity to interact with those that you're uncomfortable talking to. That's very important, because you got to get out of your comfort zone. We had a very diverse, so the diversity of the cohort is also one more thing that really helped me learn. Term 1, we had a subject called FADM. I don't know what its full form now is, but it was FADM. I think financial, something to do with income statements. And trust me, I was pathetic at that for the first about couple of weeks. So I reached out to a lady who was a CA, a chartered accountant, and I can take her name, Ria Gupta, a fabulous batchmate of ours. And she sat down with me and we were on the internet that time. And 2 nights she sat down with me after classes over, and she got my fundas straight. And I think even today I can now read income statements and balance sheets, you know, well, because of her. So you got to reach out, you got to ask for help. Each and everybody is looking to help each other out. There's no one holding knowledge back because they'll get, you know, 0.1 or 0.2 CGPA more, GPA more than you. That doesn't exist in a B school. So one was reaching out and learning. The second was take your career prep seriously, because you don't really have many shots at it, you know. So there'll be a whole lot of work. It'll again cause you to or lead you to dip into your deepest reserves of energy, because like I said, at some age, especially for PMR officers, it becomes difficult to get those things out. And you're there to learn. So I guess just pay attention to the academics and learn, because there is no other way out. And that's what a temple of learning is for. So you learn over there and keep talking to people. You know, like I remember before I joined ISB itself, I met Indivar and he gave me great tips. We were standing in the central foyer in Hyderabad, and he just rattled off 3-4 things quickly, because he was going somewhere and I was going somewhere. But those things also stuck with me. And one of those things was, you know, how to prepare for an interview, because their prep season had just about finished, a placement season. In ISB, I felt there are 3-4 kind of, you know, students. One is the very focused kinds, you know, like people like Rohit, who are, I'm going to go for consulting types, you know, very, very focused, and they really crack it very well in the first go. There are some people who are, you know, okay, let me explore my types. I was that, let me explore and see what I can gain. And there's one who are drifting with the crowd, right? They also do very well, but they're drifting because they're still finding the rhythm that happens. Now you've got to decide where you want to lie, because each group will have its own flow, and you will then become a part of that flow. And somehow that flow then becomes a kind of a permanent thing in that entire year. Offline is also great because the professors that you have, you know, we were partially online, partially offline, but what we missed was, even when we were offline, we missed that the travel of our professors to India, some of them, and our interaction with them. And I think that itself just opens wonderful. Even today, I go back to professors, I get stuck in something, and Professor Kathuria or Professor Amitabh Chatterjee in London and all, I give them a call or I give them an email, and they spare their time. We have a video call. They explain to me. I was working on a startup with a couple of friends a few days ago, and you were working on a few months ago, and we were working with Professor Kathuria, for all his efforts. So they're great professors who will help you. So if you have a doubt, if you have a query, don't sit back and think that how do I do it. Just go out there and make use of tremendous amount of resources that you have. That's what I did. And I think the biggest thing is also when sports facilities exist, they exist for a reason, because people have envisaged that you will have a stress of academics and you need a stress buster. So use the stress busters as well, because that's what I did. I played squash for about 2 hours every day. Had a great time, with other students and even with some faculty members who were playing squash. So plan your day was what I learned from Mr. Wariku's thing about how to plan, because it's a very typical environment. I don't know about others, but what I can frankly say is my weekends were worse than my weekdays. Weekdays were tolerable. Weekends were terrible because they were just jam-packed. There were so many club activities and other activities and assignments that I used to dread. People dread Mondays, I used to dread a Saturday, because that is how it used to be for me. So it's going to be a complete reversal. But things that you have heard that you never get to sleep, incorrect. You get to sleep if you manage your time. You don't want to be everywhere. You're not a ghost. You can't be everywhere. Choose where you want to be. Choose what is non-negotiable for you today, this week, this month, this term. Have that plan on when you want to work on what thing, and make up your minds about your career path by a lot of interaction with a lot of alumni and your cohort members as well in the first 2-3 months. That just helps you stabilize your focus because suddenly you'll find term 1 over, term 2 over, term 3 over. Damn it, we're right now in the middle of resume reviews and interview preps, and then there's nothing. So if you haven't made up your mind, then you'll apply for a lot of things left, right, and center. And when you apply for a lot of things, then you'll distribute your focus in a lot of things, and then there'll be lack of preparation, and then you might find that you're not really getting there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hari, for all the insights that you've shared. I'm sure they'll add a lot of value for the prospective ISB students to take a decision. Thanks each and every one of you for taking your time today and giving us insights about how your journey has been and how valuable MBA from ISB has been to you. We would love to hear any last few words from you for the prospective ISB students.
I would just say that to win any battle, you first have to have an aim. Develop your aim, and thereafter fight small battles and win the war. That's what it is. It's an open field. You have to perform. There is no alternative to performance. And if that's the way, you start off with a good aim. If you aim to join, say, a McKinsey, then you start working for it from the word go. You do not wait till your 4th term and decide that you'll go to a McKinsey. On the contrary, you decide before joining ISB that you'll go to McKinsey. For guys who are in our age bracket, plus 40, we also have to decide as to where we see ourselves in the future. And based on our future is what we start planning and start achieving it one by one.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. Rohit, over to you if you have any few pointers.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's one thing I would like to say at the end is that if after all this you're convinced and you feel that you want to come to ISB, I would only suggest you to start preparing early. The whole process is long. It takes time. It takes effort. It took me 6 months to get a 720 in GMAT, a long while being in the Navy. And then the application process in itself is a time-consuming one because it's not an objective type answer. You have to write essays, get it back and forth, this and that. So I think start early. If you have to join this year, if you have to start the next, if you have to join the next year, you have to start like about a year in advance. Take GMAT classes, get a good score, start writing your applications, etc. So do not leave things for the last moment. Also, do not start too early. Like I have got calls from people saying that I'm going to retire in 5 years. So you don't need 5 years to come to ISB. Whenever you're in a decent space of leaving, within a decent interval of leaving the defense forces, I think 1 to 2 years is a good place to start preparing for it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rohit. Over to you, Ayushman.
Yeah, I would just like to add that I saw a lot of questions in the chat box that people have got still doubt whether to go with a ISB PGP or they can go straight away for jobs and all. So I just try to put it on record that if like I was given a chance, like go back in time and do this course again, my answer is yes, because like no other course has ever given me this kind of a setup where my mind is clear of so many doubts which I had before transiting from the armed forces to the corporate world. And now I believe I have a good set of friends which I can bank on for life. That is one. And second, the alumni network which the ISB PGP offers you, which you can always leverage over and above your existing armed forces network or the background you're coming from, the existing network. So it adds a lot of value to your own network for finding better jobs and opportunities in the civil world. So have no doubts. If you want to clarify, you can talk to a lot of alums who have been through the same journey and make up your mind. And as Rohit brought out, prepare well and ace the course. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ayushman. Yeah, Hari, if you have a few points in this.
Yep. There's one interesting question by Rohit Prakash, and I think that will sum up everything. Is that is age just a number at ISB? I had my 47th birthday in ISB. I think I am the oldest ever to graduate as part of the PGP program. I don't know about PGP Pro and PGP Max. So I proudly say that. I don't know whether it's true or not, but unless somebody changes it, I'm 47th birthday in ISB, and it's turned out absolutely fine for me. So I would not say age is just a number, but I think it's also about your risk appetite, and have faith in yourself. Take a leap of faith if you really want to do it, because like in the armed forces, you have trainings at every step, at every rank to prepare you for the next 4 or 5 year of career horizon. It's a theoretical foundation that is laid for you to perform well in your job. Similarly, when you step out, you need a theoretical foundation as well. And I think ISB gives that outstanding theoretical foundation for you to be able to learn and connect the dots in your mind before you speak next time in a corporate setting, in a meeting. And settling down in the cohort, I think it's up to you, because I didn't find my cohort, in any way reticent or hesitant to accept me, because I put my hand out and said, you know what, I want to be a part of every activity, and I want to be a part of you. I am one of you. I am Harry. I am not Captain Singh, or I am not, Harinderjeet sir or something like that. Some people still insisted on calling me sir. Some called me captain, but very often than not, for everybody else, I was Harry, and I think it was just fine. And I think that's very important, even from a change management perspective. A placement process, like Indivar himself said, and Rohit and Ayushman also said, it's up to you how you handle it, and it's up to you how we've discussed it more than enough in this thing. So just go there and it'll happen. It's just, let's just put it that way.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, each and every one of you, for all your insights, and looking at all the successful transitions into different sectors that you've made coming from the armed forces. It's very inspiring, and I definitely hope a lot of the prospective ISB students would opt for this MBA. Thank you so much, and over to you, Ketan.
Yep, thank you, Nishita, for hosting this, and thank you, our panelists, Rohit, Indivar, Ayushman, and Harry sir. I mean, we got you late, but your insights were very valuable. You can all log off now. Probably what I do is the people of admissions team will take some questions from the attendees regarding the admission process. So thank you very much for all the questions and answers and all the insightful details that you have elucidated today. Thank you very much. Thank you. You can all log off, and we'll have the attendees have some questions about admission process.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, and I wish all the attendees, the very best in their journeys beyond the military life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here. Pleasure being here, and wish all the future retirees the very best for the corporate transition.
Yeah, thank you, Ketan. Thank you, Nikita, for having us here, and Harry sir and Endeavor sir and Rohit. And all the best to all the future PGP students, and all the best. Good day.
Thank you very much, ISB. And thank you. Good luck to all officers. And good day, Harry sir. Good day, Endeavor sir. Good day, sir. Ayushman sir. See you.
Great. People, if you have some questions regarding the admission process at ISB, I would like you to raise your hands, and I'll be more than happy to take any of the questions that you people might have. I can see a few raised hands. Samir, Ram, how do I unmute them? I don't see any option of unmuting them as it is.
Okay, Professor.
Ram, what do I do? I mean, there is no option of unmuting them.
There is an option, sir, allow to talk, person by person, sir.
Somehow I do not find that option. Can you allow them to talk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I allow them to talk one by one, sir?
One by one. So Shantanu
who-
is the one who is raising his hand. Shantanu, we are just allowing you to ask your question now.
Yeah. Yeah, you can speak right now, sir.
Yes, Shantanu, do you have any questions?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Shantanu, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I am a serving officer. I've completed 17 years this June, and I'm planning to switch after 20 years. And I've been following these webinars, and luckily today we had this webinar wherein the alums who were ex-army officers and defense officers who were there, and it was very informative session. My only question is that while I was reading about ISB and the various programs offered, that is PGP Max, PGP Pro, and PGP, so I have been advised that you must go for PGP Max because the average age group of the cohort in that program will be matching yours. So it would be prudent for you to join that.
Okay.
However, then in one of the sessions earlier, I have been advised by one of the members of the admission committee of ISB that if you're planning to switch, then it